times they'll say, I got to go to work today, so I recommend the folk museum, and you probably should go downtown and wander around, and so they'll tell you all the good things, and then there's a boat trip in the afternoon. I mean, that kind of thing. So it's just it's wonderful. I'll put the link in the chat.
Wow, I've never heard of it. I mean, I've heard of changing houses through some organization, but this sounds wonderful. Yeah. Are you
Well,
going to
there's
talk
McGregor.
about a little bit more?
Pardon me?
I just wrote down that McGregor had sent her regrets, but I see she's here.
Yay.
That's good. We have regrets from Hideko and Pam Richards. Well,
Okay. McGregor, are you going to be able to be here the whole time, or?
Yes, I think so. I'm at my Peace Center, the Monterey Peace and Justice Center, where I'm on the board. We're having an event. We're having an event tonight with Roy Zimmerman, and I have my phone with me, and I need to help with the setup. But I came early, and here's what I did. I did the hardest one, the bathroom. So I'm going to sit here in my Peace Center where other people are working and listen to. I may need to be silent because they'll be busy and noisy, but at least I'll hear the discussion. Okay.
Right, well, you are on the agenda.
That's fine. I can find a quiet place and speak, but right now I'll mute myself and just listen to all the wonderful things you're going to say. But I am in my Peace Center where we are setting up. And as you know, we all have to do our share. But anyway.
Okay, great. So let's see. How are we doing with participants? 8 of us so far.
That's not bad for kind of having a different day since we changed it from the last, or whatever. I guess it's usually the last.
Usually the last, right. But on account of my not being here next week, you kindly moved it. But that means I will leave willy-nilly at 6:15 because I have a concert. Willy-nilly.
Okay.
It's a Latin, it's a colloquial way of saying a Latin phrase, which means come what may. I have a concert that starts at 7:30 in San Francisco. I've had the tickets since last March, so I'm not going to miss that. So I'm hoping we can rush through, Diane, if you're going to be facilitating.
Okay, I'll try to rush.
But nevertheless, you're all quite competent to carry on without me, so I'm not.
Well, we have to the next time. No, you'll be here. It's just the agenda that needs to be I'm going to do for next time. Right.
So I will also.
Do you have the agenda right now, Diane?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
It's 7:30, so we may as well get started.
Oh, it's 7:33. Oh my. Yeah. Okay. So we need a note taker, vibes watcher, and timekeeper. Ideally.
I'll be a vibes watcher.
Okay.
I'll do the time, unless somebody else wants to do the time.
Oh, that's wonderful if you do the time, John. And then the note taker is the big thing. I remember I was supposed to be getting people to do this in advance. Every time I come here and say, oh, I was supposed to have gotten somebody. Did I see a raised hand? No. Well, if nobody does, I guess I will. If nobody else does volunteers, because I just want to get on, because we're trying to get through this. Okay. Revision of the agenda is necessary. Anything to be added, subtracted?
Well, as I say, I will invite Anne to speak. We should invite Anne to speak in 5AI1.
Okay.
She has, and you will have received her invitation to an event.
Right, with the
but
change.
I want to
date.
be able to take it, to talk about it. And I can tell you, I shall be on the high seas off of Mexico, so I will
Oh,
not be attending.
that sounds exciting.
Okay, and Robin, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I'd like to add to the agenda a few minutes on the Commission on the Status of Women, which I attended at the United Nations
Yes.
a week or so ago.
Okay.
Where would you put that in the agenda?
I don't know where.
5.8. I think it's 5.8. Work with
Wow.
other issue committees.
Okay,
We'll come right after you talk about AFRICOM.
okay.
Does that sound okay, Diane?
Yeah, I'm trying to find AFRICOM, Middle East, no NATO.
No, AFRICOM is at 7. All the others are at 8. So
Oh,
after
she has her own special thing. Yeah, okay, got it. Uh-huh.
Commission on the Status. Great, yes.
Okay, good. So I added that to the agenda. So we can get going. Unless there's, I think that's probably it for the changes. Brand new people. I think, Anne, you're kind of new.
I'm kind of, but not really. I'm from Minnesota. And I chair a Rotary satellite club called We Rotary World. We're making a little bit of progress with Rotarians, if only to educate them. We don't know if we'll ever get the admin to come on, but it doesn't matter because we are moving more toward educating Rotarians in different places and bringing people together. So,
Oh, good. Okay. So that was 2A. And oh, I don't have to say everything. Okay. Short reports on your WILPF action since the last meeting. If you're not on the agenda already, and not to do with hot topics. Are there any reports? Okay, because there's so much covered in the agenda. Approval of Disarm Committee minutes of the 25th February meeting. Are there any changes? That's good.
you just had something.
Yeah. Judith, do you have your hand raised? Okay,
No,
you're
we can't
muted.
hear you.
And McGregor, you said good, right?
Right. I had
Okay.
three small things from Eileen, who did a very careful reading. She changed a couple of prepositions which weren't correct. And she said it was her and Ginger Harris who would do the peace walk. So those are the 3 she sent me. Judith, did you have anything?
Well, I was going to report, it's not a WILF action, so it's not appropriate for number 2. I just was going to report a little bit about PEP.
No,
But
that you get to speak. You get to
Later.
speak in the agenda item.
Treaties, right? Is it under
Treaties.
treaties?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about
The
it.
goal is a treaty. So it should be
Right.
covered under treaties. Okay. So the minutes are approved as sent out because
Well, with 3 small changes, yeah.
okay, you got that after. Okay. Hot topics, total of 15 minutes for this is estimated. The first one is Gaza-Israel war. General topics. Oh, you recommended we look at the BBC News webpage and how life has changed. Yeah.
Did any of you have a chance to look at that webpage?
No.
No. Oh, you could possibly bring it up on your own computers right now if you highlight the agenda and you go to the real agenda and click. Anyway, it just shows you, it's kind of a reminder of what's happened since October the 7th and how different efforts have been forwarded to get help. There's a very interesting near the top. BBC does very well with graphics, with graphical explanations of statistics. And they show you how many humanitarian trucks used to go in to the Gaza before October the 7th. It was like 500 trucks of food a day. And then in some period, it went down to like 2 a week. And now it's back up, but it's still nowhere near the 500 trucks a day that they used to have. Okay, and I'm hoping you're all following the news in whatever your favorite newscaster is about efforts to get more food in. There's this total non-profit called World Kitchen. There's another word in there. World Kitchens.
Central Kitchen.
Run by, pardon?
Central Kitchen. World Central
Kitchen, run by a chef who's managed to assemble enough volunteers that they were already in Gaza making food and feeding people, but a few thousand a day. But he got a boat in Cyprus. He filled it up with proper food, and canned food and flour and stuff, and then got it towed to the Gaza Strip, to the beachhead part, and there was no pier left, so he actually made a pier for himself. I mean, he used the big blocks of broken down buildings, and there is heavy equipment there, bulldozers, and he made a pier sticking a little bit into the Mediterranean, so his barge could be pushed up to the pier, and then he produced, he had lorries ready to take the food. But again, it's a drop in the ocean, and I'm hope you all took note of what happened in the UN Security Council on Friday. Okay, the US actually had a resolution that they put forward to say that we really should have a humanitarian, ceasefire, and we really should do something about the hostages. It was vetoed by Russia and China, who said it wasn't strong enough, which we would probably agree it wasn't strong enough. So, but this is the first time the US has actually said anything about we should really have a ceasefire in the Security Council. So one could say it's some progress, right? Yes. Anyway, so anyway, just to hear anybody else, anything in particular that struck you this last week about what's going on in Gaza? And what have you done are you standing on street corners with signs? Are you writing to your Congress people?
Well, the big change, of course, is that Chuck Schumer, who is the highest ranking Jewish person in the United States government, came out strongly saying that what Netanyahu was doing was harmful, not just to the people of Gaza, but to Israel itself. So that's a big, big step in the right direction.
Right. I see Robin's hand and Peggy.
Yeah, so here in Burlington, Vermont, we are, in the next few weeks, we are doing a small show on CCTV based on a book of graphics from Gaza. One of our artists actually lives in Canada. Sam Curson has done a book on Gaza, and the interesting thing is that he was in the military way back at the time that Israel attacked the American ship Liberty in the Mediterranean. Do you all remember that incident? 30 Americans died, and they were attacked by Israel, and it was all covered up. And everyone said, no, it wasn't us, it was a mistake, whatever. But they ended up paying, if you Google the incident, Israel paid, millions of dollars to the families of the 30 Americans that died. Anyway, we're going to illustrate the book and talk about that incident and talk about this artist, and it's going to be sort of an art thing on Gaza. So that's what we're doing here.
About what year was that?
It was the six-day war. Wasn't it the 6-day war? Is that 67?
Yeah,
I,
67. Yeah,
No.
some time ago, but nevertheless. Mhm.
yes,
Thank you. Mhm.
but sort of,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say something that Ralph Nader had it in his show. He was talking about it and he says how it was very purposeful. They went in and purposely did that, killed the Americans, because I don't know, but anyway, but there are people alive who still remember it. So Peggy, when you get a chance to unmute.
I sent an email to the discussion list about what has been happening in Atlanta this last month. And I would read it, but I pasted it was 6 minutes and you didn't leave much time for a local report. So I'll just tell you, I met as an ad hoc member of WILF with an ad hoc group that has formed here in Atlanta, Senior Citizens for Ceasefire. And we met with Senator Warnock's staff on Zoom last week, and we have a meeting scheduled with Senator Ossoff this coming week. But more excitingly, I saw a letter that the Veterans for Peace had sent it was a long letter with a lot of details on the way that shipping arms to Israel has violated 6 different statutes. And I contacted them when I saw that the Undersecretary of State for Arms Control was coming to Atlanta. And they got in touch with me and asked me to represent them. They had an effort to deliver their letter to 16 different cities. And the effort to deliver it in Atlanta they locked the door and told them to push it under the door. But anyway, we went and we had a very successful time. And I wrote about it on in the note I sent you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you, yes.
Okay, good. So I think that covers the Gaza-Israel war, and then we're on to Ukraine.
Okay.
16th March interactive webinar.
I did attend that. I'm willing to say a bit. I know there were some other people from WILF there. I always look in the participant list when I go to a webinar that I've told you about. Joan, were you there? Do you want to say anything, or shall I try to briefly summarize what happened?
Go for it.
So Brian D'Agostino, who arranged this event, is actually a member of Disarm. We haven't seen him in a while because he's been a bit sick, and he's also busy with all these other volunteer organizations. So he got 3 speakers. Well, himself, Nicholas Davis, who wrote the book with Medea about the Ukraine war. He tried to get Medea, but she was Medea Benjamin. She was busy that day, so Nicholas came instead. And then a man called Ken Fuchsman. Okay. And so essentially they had, we've all got the facts in front of us, right? Of what's been happening since before 2014, but people put different interpretations on why what has happened. So Nicholas Davis, says Russia was provoked because Ukraine wanted to join NATO, and they really don't want to have NATO countries that close to the Russian border. And then Mr. Fuchsman, his idea was that it was really to do with the European Union, that Russia really didn't want Ukraine to join the European Union, which is an economic organization, not NATO. It's a different organization, because he really wanted to trade. He wanted Ukraine to trade with Russia and have trade agreements with Russia rather than trade agreements with the European Union. And in fact, that was, one reason that every time it looked like Ukraine might join the EU, Putin et al. Did something like they invaded Chechnya at some point. And so he sees it all as a European power dynamics. But Nicholas Davis, some people, we're being fed by the media here that, if we don't stop the Russians, they're going to just try to take over all of Europe. Okay. And Nicholas Davis tried to show that that wasn't the case. He said, okay, so they just managed, the Russians just in the last few weeks got a hold of this city that they'd been fighting over, Advika. Okay, Advika was a city that has some military significance. And he said, but then what did the Russians do? Did they then march on to Kyiv? And the answer was no. Okay, so it doesn't look like Russia is, they tried once to march to Kyiv and they were stopped very quickly. So, the media here is telling us to be really afraid of Russia, and if we're not careful, they're going to take over the whole of Europe. And so we have to keep sending them more weapons and things like that. Now, WILPF's position is we want a diplomatic end to this war, that ceasefire should be called and negotiations should go on. So these three kind of historian people really didn't have, nobody can predict how this war is going to finish in Ukraine. But and there is a recording which I think is only allowed to go to people who registered. Another thing is somebody's keeping track of Putin, right? So when Putin first came to be president of Russia, he wasn't like he is now. Okay, he has definitely changed over the past 20 years, and so he actually asked to join NATO at some point, and he didn't go anywhere. So it's a very complicated situation. Okay, and I'll quit there. Robin has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it's worthwhile to go to Wikipedia and dial in Crimea, the whole issue of the Crimea War in 1850. It was between England, France, and that piece of land that juts into the Black Sea, and Russia. Russia has to have that hunk of an island because it's their only access. Well, you all know that, but somehow reading it, I just feel we're dragged in. The whole world is dragged into this war that has been repeated over and over again. I mean, not just World War I and World War II, but the Crimea War way back then. And read the dynamics there and weep. All right, weep. That's my point.
We do a lot of that these days. Anyway, Philip, you have your hand up.
I need to say we're on the time. We're past the time.
Okay, but Philip, go ahead. Then we'll go.
Time may have been estimated.
I just wanted to say, if you go back to the dissolution of the USSR, you'll see that one of the reasons why they came apart was because Russia did not want to have the burden of many of the countries that were part of the Eastern Bloc. They were an economic drain on Russia. Mm-hmm. And so they did try to basically detach themselves. And I don't think that they want to control Ukraine in total. As Robert said, they only want to really have possession of the Crimea. And basically, Ukraine has never been a sovereign nation unto themselves. They've always been a great landmass with basically a peasant population that has been controlled by various countries in the Eastern Europe. Poland and Lithuania combined, and at one time even Germany. So they've never really been a sovereign nation, and they were the only country that ever been under the flag of anarchy. They were anarchists shortly during the era of the early 20th century for about 3 or 4 months, and they actually had a black flag to represent the fact that they were anarchists, and that didn't last long.
Well, good to hear the history.
Okay, since we're over time, we'll go on to diffuse nuclear war. And I believe that is kind of McGregor's topic,
No,
right?
well, no, she gets in 5. Well, it is. McGregor, I've said there, one of the things that diffuse nuclear war wants us to do is that week, the 10th to the 16th of June, to a way of honoring Daniel Ellsberg, who died last year. They're calling it a week of education and action to honor peacemaking and whistleblowing. Okay, so
Yes.
McGregor, did you want to? And they actually have a list. If you go to their website and drill down, they have a list of things that you can do during that week. Do you have any strong feelings, McGregor?
Yeah, let me just say this. We don't need to take time. If you're moved to do it, go to the Diffuse Nuclear War website. But here's the important part of it. Most people remember Daniel Ellsberg for the Vietnam War and the Pentagon Papers. In the end of his life, with great pain and difficulty, he wrote a book called The Doomsday Machine about nuclear weapons. Diffused Nuclear War wants to use this to lift up his book and even help each other read it. It's a hard book to read because things are even worse than we think, and we think they're pretty bad. So it is a hard book to read, and I find it hard to read, and I love the man. So I think if we try to look at that part of it during this, and the rest I'll defer, it's just for us to lift up his second book about nuclear weapons, because his Vietnam record is known by the public. This is what's not known. That's all I want to say.
Say the name of his book again.
It's called The Doomsday Machine, The Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner.
So in his early life, he worked for Department of Defense, State Department, and he helped to plan nuclear wars, which is why he knew so much about them. And then later on in his life, he changed his attitude, as people do. So it's called the Doomsday Machine.
Yes, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner by Daniel Ellsberg. You can no longer get an autographed copy. That window has passed with his death last year. But it's the best way to honor him. For example, if you read the book, you can review it on Goodreads or share it with your friends or form a little discussion, because it's hard to read because the things you find out are worse.
I was hoping, well, I think this, it's a while, well, every e-news, we ask WILPF members all over to try to do something to do with disarmament and ending wars. But this is a whole week. And I was thinking we would try to get our branches to get engaged in this. So there is a list. I didn't see it. Yeah, I didn't see it as lifting up his book, actually. But anyway, that's McGregor's viewpoint.
The books are the whistleblowing.
Right. Right. So he was a whistleblower. Anyway, so I'm going
to suggest that our branch change our meeting date from the third Friday to the second Friday for that month. So it'll be during the week.
So you'll talk about it or do something.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. I see Peggy and Robin.
Right.
I didn't know, I knew that Sam Nunn and Ted Turner had started something about nuclear threat, but I hadn't really paid any attention to it. But he spoke, Sam Nunn was at the talk that I wrote you all about. And he said he said a wonderful thing. He said, our choice is cooperation or catastrophe, and we have to learn to cooperate with people we don't necessarily don't like. And I wondered if any of you all are more familiar with the nuclear threat index than I am, and if you'd have any suggestion of anything I might do to relate to Sam Nunn. I thought he was dead, and he's quite alive.
Is that the Nuclear Threat Index or the Nuclear Threat Institute or the Nuclear Threat Initiative?
It's the same thing. It's
right, it's the one
NPI, and they do an index, and they are an institute, and they started out as the Nuclear Threat Initiative. But I don't know, and what I just said is what I know.
Okay. They were the ones who did the Hollywood business for the Oppenheimer Oscars, but which I was going to mention later.
Oh, really?
Okay, we need to.
Okay, well, we have two hands raised. We'll take those. I think Eileen, you're next, and then Robin, and then we'll.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. I want to thank McGregor for sending out the message that I ended up sharing in my Social Action Committee meeting this morning in my church. And the one that I'm referring to is, comes from various sources, but basically it's a list of, hey, ICBMs are a threat to everyone, including those they're supposed to be defending. 2, ICBMs are sold to the American public as jobs programs, but the numbers don't add up. And I went digging for that and found the Brown University Job Opportunity Cost of War writing by Heidi Garrett Peltier, who studied this in depth, and she's got the qualifications to write this, but it's a thing that goes back to 2017 and is still appropriate. Third item was, according to experts, including former generals, ICBMs are unnecessary. Our subs are covering us. And they're not targets because they move, while the sites in the mid and the central part of our country, people are going to die if they're hit.
They're the nuclear sponge. They were put there specifically.
It's called the nuclear sponge. That piece of information was very helpful in convincing the folks who are interested in other things in my church. The anti-nuke people weren't at the meeting. They've got various problems. Most of them are older. They're like me, but I still have the energy to do this, and they don't. And I'm trying to stir up interest. I don't know how much I got, though, but I did it. Bye.
That sounds good.
It was thank McGregor. Thank you.
Okay, Robin.
Yeah, so last week on the 19th, we held here in Burlington a Can We Restart the Peace Movement here in Vermont. I was very alarmed with a number of the messages that had come across by Greg Mello, who works in Arizona, New Mexico or something, near the Los Alamos, and other people who had attended the Nuclear Deterrence Summit in Washington, D.C. This is the most frightening institution of all the people coming together to create a nuclear war and win it. You know, the guys who think we can win it. So anyway, one of those people in one of the emails that came out was a person who was a journalist, and he said, I'm from Burlington. I live on the same street as Bernie Sanders. So I called him up, and it turns out he is writing an article for Progressive Magazine on the state of the anti-nuclear movement. And so he came to our meeting, and we tried to beat the bushes to get people to come. There were about 15 people total. It was a hybrid, and he's a very interesting guy, Jim Carrier. A successful writer, and he lives here in town, and I had never heard of him. So I met him, and he's wants to expand and do a full article. So for me, the exciting thing was to finally have a reporter come to an event and show interest in the issue. Of course, the interest is, where is the anti-nuclear movement? It's like there were no young people at our event, although I tried. And although our city government is in totally bouleversé because of the ceasefire thing, we elected a mayor who is pro-ceasefire and lost the most popular person who was anti-ceasefire, and we elected a few people, Congress people, so things are going to be very different here in Burlington. And so I think there is, and that may be happening around the country, so there are positive whispers of change, I think, in our country now.
Well, good. Some hope. Okay. So we probably had our
So
time
there
off.
is, right.
Go
There is
ahead,
a section, in item 5, I'm going to talk to you about an effort to improve the anti-nuclear weapon movement in the country. We're about to start a national effort towards that. You'll hear about it later in the agenda.
Okay, so we're on campaign reports now. And Anne, why don't you go about what you're here to tell us about?
Thank you. I'll just take 1 minute, and I have to leave early too. I've been really despairing about the approach about the whole 9 nuclear nations have to get together and in one action eliminate nuclear weapons. I just think it's not realistic, and it leaves them with despair, because it's like another Security Council. Like, one says no, and then everybody's out. So I was very heartened to be in Scotland and to hear the story of they're moving toward independence. And one of the reasons is they want to get rid of the UK nuclear weapons that are on their property and have been there from a long time with no consultation, no consideration of the Scottish people at all. And so I meet this young woman. She's about 25 and a real dynamic person. So I invited her actually to join our Rotary Club, but also just to come and speak about Scottish independence and nuclear weapons abolition, because we need some sign of hope that somebody's working on this somewhere and it could actually happen. It would be a huge blow to the UK. It would be a royal battle, but nonetheless, they are going head forward to do this. So I hope you'll come to it. She's just going to speak for 10 minutes and then do questions. And I told her she could have as long as she wanted to, but we are very interested in promoting positive stories of good things that are happening so we don't get locked up in despair. So I will be continuing to send the Zoom link out to the Disarm group. And please forward it to trusted people. I'm trying to figure out how to use the registration list, and I haven't been able to do it, but please come, and I'll send it on the day, the 8th, so you get it in the morning and get a reminder. So thanks. I'm so glad to be here, and I'll try to be more present at your meetings. I am a member of WILPF.
You might want to send it out on the branches listserv for all WILPF members.
I don't have that.
She can't do. Anne's not on that list. If you want, I can send it. If you want it to go to all WILPF members, to invite them to. Well, it goes to WILPF contacts, and then we depend on the WILPF contacts sending it to their branch members, and that's not a very efficient way, but nevertheless,
it's the way we have. It's something. Yeah.
Let me just ask Anne, could you advise us on the best way to reach the Rotary Club in our own towns? Because that's
Yes,
a
I
wonderful
can.
way, we all have them probably, to reach out to
Yes,
others.
I wish you would do that. If you will just email me, I'll put my email in the chat, and just email me anytime you want to contact. And don't give up on them, because there are always people there who are interested. But you know, we have this big censorship kind of thing in Rotary about we can't take action. We can't sign on to statements that are political. But when you get it right down to it, there's no definition of it. And I take it very narrowly to be political candidates, and I do support that. So we're trying to get Rotary and Rotarians, including some very old guard people who really relish a nuclear war, I think, to let us talk about it. So we keep talking and hope that the Rotary will come in on that. But yes, I'll help you anytime. I can do this very easily. And any of you want to join our club, that's okay too.
Okay.
You
Well,
said you're going to put your email in the chat, right?
Yep.
okay. So the next item is watching the Oscars. Cheryl would like to know who had the party that we've talked about so much.
I believe Jean Verthane was going to have a party, and I saw she joined us a while ago. Did any of you actually watch the Oscars?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So you had to wait till the Best Actor award, so that Cillian, what's his name? The Irishman who won the Best Actor for portraying Oppenheimer did say, shaking the Oscar figure, that he thanked that this Oscar was for the peacemakers. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing. I hope you all caught that.
Yep.
I was surprised that others didn't remark on that, since they had spent their lives talking about Oppenheimer's life, and it was so involved with that. So I was disappointed, frankly.
Me too.
Right. So at the BAFTAs, the British equivalent of the Oscars, Christopher Nolan did say that he thanked all the people have been working against nuclear weapons when he was awarded as Best Director. But when you are in a group, then you have to divide your Oscar speech between the three of you, and so they all had less time. Okay, whereas Cillian had a whole, whatever it was, 2 minutes to himself. So that was part of my explanation of why some people didn't mention it, because of the timing. They were very strict.
Okay.
But if you see in the agenda, there is, so this Nuclear Threat Institute, NTI, had done a lot of stuff ahead of time. They had a letter in the Los Angeles Times. They sent a letter to Biden. They had roving around mobile billboards, driving around Hollywood ahead of the time. So there was a bit of a buzz about it around the Oppenheimer film. So.
Well, I didn't know. I will send a note to Senator Nunn.
What didn't you know, Peggy?
I didn't know that I didn't know that the organization Senator Nunn and Ted Turner were involved in had sponsored all of this, and I'll do some follow-up.
Do look in the agenda and go to that website and check that they are indeed the same one and the same thing. I don't want to mislead you.
Okay.
I don't remember the name Sam Nunn, maybe in the past, but currently he's not one of the leaders. but he's an old fella, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So McGregor, did you want to report on the Vandenberg ICBM test launches that we haven't yet had evidently this year? Have we been fought
Yes.
March? Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Here's my report. I have absolutely no idea whatsoever why they have not done a launch. So I suggest, especially you, Cheryl, ask your physicist and insider friends. Anne, is Anne still there? Anne Frisch? Is
No.
Anne there?
She
Oh,
left.
she's gone.
We
Oh.
have, yeah. I have no
I have
insider
no
friends.
Yeah, I have no idea. I could speculate, but you can speculate on your own. I do not think we should waste time speculating. We have a lot of things on the agenda, but some extremely important things are happening. I do not think we should speculate. As soon as I know something, I promise you will be the first to know. Fair enough?
Good.
Okay. And so there's going to be a conference on May 4th. Cheryl, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, yes. I'm just looking at Eileen said she didn't get the Oscars on her TV. It was on network TV. It was on ABC, I believe. And so I have no idea why you couldn't find it.
I'm not hooked into the system like everyone else. I don't pay for it. I've got this special window.
No. This you don't pay for ABC. I don't pay for
I
anything.
know. I didn't get it, is the point. I looked and I looked.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that because it's one of the few things you don't have to pay for. It's on regular network TV. Anyway, so let me tell you. So I've been attending a group called Localities and Legislators. It's one of our partners that we take part in, which is trying to get the TPNW to get our local state reps and people like that to say they agree with the TPNW. It's one of these grassroots rising up efforts. And a man called Peter Bergel, who's our chair of that meeting, has been complaining for a long time that the peace movement is too weak, that we keep using the same strategies, but we don't seem to be getting anywhere. And so his idea, which I've agreed to help with, is to have this conference on May the 4th, where many organizations, peacemaking, anti-nuclear organizations, will be asked to send their best representative of somebody who does strategic thinking, who's used to brainstorming and coming up with new ideas, new tactics that we should be trying to use within the anti-nuclear movement. I have a list, I've accumulated a list of like 52 organizations who are going to be invited to send just one person or two from their organization to take part, and there'll be breakout rooms, and we'll do a lot of brainstorming, hopefully come up with some new ideas. We're going to invite some international people. We see that people in Europe have come up with some good ideas of how to take action. So that's going to be on May the 4th. And that's one of the things I'm working on right now. This is to try to strengthen the anti-nuclear movement, which is, we're not having as much effect as we'd like. So that's all I'm going to say. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then the next item is Norton's bill. I don't know if Ellen wants to say anything about that, or that's on the agenda every time, I think. So unless Ellen wants to say something, I think we should just go on. And then reports on actions of various coalitions, Warheads to Windmills, book tour.
Right. So again, I go to their meetings, and so they had, I think they had about 8 different events up and down California. And we spent a lot of time advertising the one here in Palo Alto. We must have posted that it was going on in, 10 or so different online places where we often put our events, our WILF branch events. we managed to get 14 people to go to the bookstore. But the people who weren't were very interested, and 14 books were actually bought. Okay, so the main point is to get more people to buy this book, the Warheads to Windmills book, that tells you, how you can actually change the system so that the people who are now working on nuclear weapons should work on green energy technology and what have you. And why is it that we need to change the system and get rid of the weapons? So and I asked, so the last one was going to be the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, was going to be the person who helped, and I'm just going to see. Okay, so Timon just wrote to me. Tim is the author, and he just wrote a few minutes ago. So 25 people had signed up at the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation down in Santa Barbara to attend, but only 8 showed up. So this is unfortunately what happens, right? And in fact, they said, they said they were full, and people had to get on the wait list. So 25 people signed up and only 8 turned up. This is an unfortunate statistic that's rather similar.
Yeah, but it does get the word out about the book, so that's good.
Yes, yes, and
we need to work on the public libraries to get the book too, because at least the ones in the 2 biggest ones in Santa Clara County that are not separate, like Palo Alto is, I did not have it when I checked the county library in San Jose.
Did you ask? Did you put a request in?
I will. Yes, that's what I'm saying. We need to get it into the libraries.
Libraries, right. And every library has an online form usually that you can type in a book you want them to buy with the publisher name and what have you. And they're usually very, I know Palo Alto is quite responsive, but also reviews. Okay, what apparently gets books sold is somebody comes onto Amazon and sees there's a review there, or 2 reviews better. So any of you who have bought the book, even if you haven't read it properly, I'm sure you can say some nice things about it. And then you go into and possibly you go back to where you bought it from, and you insert the review there. And that's another request from Timon, that we try to do that. I know people,
but also send a copy of it to Timon and to Warheads.
Copy of your review.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen just sent something in the chat. I think it's the film I saw of one of Timon's sessions. I'm wondering how many of these sessions are being put on Zoom. I'm sending this out. I sent it out to my branch for those who didn't make the book meeting that Timon had here in Newton.
As far as I know, this is the first.
This is not a Zoom. This was this was in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, it was filmed.
Oh, it was filmed? Well, that's what I'm sending out.
Yeah. Right. It's not, the quality is not that good.
The information's good. There weren't many people in the room, but some of the questions at the end were quite good.
Yeah, so I asked the Santa Cruz branch of WILPF to advertise the event and then to go and record it. It was done on a camcorder by Dee Nuns, who's one of the Santa Cruz WILPF branch members, and she got it over to Ellen, who's now got it onto our YouTube channel. So that's good.
On WILPF US Today YouTube channel, for those who are just listening, who aren't looking at the chat.
Right. Although it doesn't actually say, when you look at that URL, Ellen, it doesn't say WILPF US.
No, but you can find it if you go to WILPF US.
US. Right. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so I think we're next with the Gloria is not here with her CSS. So should we just go on?
Yes, she said she had a play thing she was attending and she would arrive late. This will it also depends on her understanding that we've gone on to daylight savings time and Arizona hasn't. And that
Oh.
makes a difference. And I've had a bunch of
Thank you.
people getting confused.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
so if she comes in later, please call on her.
Okay. Okay. So Eileen, you're next on the Lethal Autonomous Weapons Laws campaign.
I just want to say I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry I have nothing to present this time.
Okay. So we have next promote peace through treaties, and we have Judith Hand here, so she can talk about PEP. Go ahead, Judith.
I'd also like you to tell us about the Founding Mothers Movement, which I did attend your meeting, Diane, your All WILF meeting. We learned from this lady called Laura George, who's a founder of the Founding Mothers Movement.
Okay.
And I'd like to understand the connection between Judith. Is Judith trying to work with them? So Judith, could you address that?
Okay, let me start out with what I was just going to say, which is very brief, but it's that I can happily report that PEP, the number of women who are on what I would call a working committee, has enlarged. We now have 7 women who are putting in ideas and thoughts and working on a launch. We haven't decided what the launch is going to be, but we're working on it. And so that's a plus. As to how it relates to the Founding Mothers Movement, I'm very interested in. I go to all of their meetings. I was invited to become. They kind of have 2 main things they're going to focus on. One is a treaty. They weren't originally going to do a treaty, but after talking with Laura a lot, we have both concluded. She came around to the idea that you could do an end run around the war machine if we go all the way to getting a treaty again. That is an enormous task, as all of you would be well aware. It's not going to be easy, but it has been done in the past. There is something called the Kellogg-Briand Treaty, that's never been rescinded. We might be able to start with that, convince people, let's update it. And I can go into a long story about how that might work out. But their other half of the Founding Mothers Movement is the interest on empowering women around the globe so that they have full human rights, including the rights to family planning and reproductive rights. And so those 2 things is their focus, getting rights for women around the globe and getting a peace treaty. And I was invited to become the person who would kind of head up the peace treaty part. And we're talking about it still a little bit, but I'm reluctant because my belief has been about Project Enduring Peace, that it should be single-minded focus on one thing and one thing only, getting a peace treaty. If we do that and do nothing else, it will have all kinds of ramifications for nuclear weapons, autonomous weapons, tanks, whatever. Because if you're not having international wars, then the need for those things is threatened, let me put it that way. So if I get involved in the whole Founding Mothers Movement as a leadership position, I feel it will distract me too much at this point of development for Project Enduring Peace. So I'm staying focused on that right now and working on, for Founding Mothers Movement, I'm working on their manifesto because they are a very ambitious project and they're going to include as part of their launch and progress a manifesto. And Laura George asked me to write it up and I'm writing a first draft. I don't know whether they'll like my take on it or not, but she considers that my work in biology that has to do with the relationship of women to war is the nexus that they need. Why do we need to empower women? And my answer is because if you don't, you will never end war. And so, and I come at it from a biological perspective, and she likes that. And so that's what I'm working on right now. Woo! That's our homepage. Project Enduring Peace. I love the logo that our guru created, which is a number of women releasing peace doves into the world. And you can go on. Yeah, she does a beautiful job. You go on the website. It's the easiest way to get to. If you see the search engine up at the top, it says HTTPS or the www. If you just go up there and type in afww.org, the homepage comes up, and across the top will be nav bars, and there it is. And then one of the nav bars, which you should be able to see, which I don't see right now. Can you scroll it down? There we go. If you go across the nav bars at the top, see over about in the middle? There it is, Project Enduring Peace. That'll take you to the website. It will explain the mission goal. It will explain why the rationale is that this is a time in history that is right to do this. The global community, look, how many peace organizations do we have? How many different problems are we trying to solve? The whole global community feels something is very wrong. And it turns out that this time in history has presented us with an opportunity to get a binding peace treaty. And there's an essay that's associated with that website as to why this time in history makes this possible. And the last thing that is on that website is a suggestion for how the treaty would work. How would it be different from all the other treaties that we've had? Why would it work? This depends upon the circumstances that are with us right now. One of the big ones being, we have a global community. The global community knows we've got to work together or we're going to go over some kind of horrible dystopian cliff. The fact that the whole global community realizes means that you can get more buy-in for a treaty. In the past treaties, they were never assigned by all the nations of the world. The goal is to get them all on board. And then as a united group, they can warn and advise any group that proposes to attack digitally or physically. We're watching you. We know what you're up to. That is something we can only do now because of technology. We knew that Putin was getting ready to invade Ukraine. Apparently, we knew that somebody was going to try attack a concert hall in Russia. We know, we have the technology now to know when somebody is proposing to break the treaty. And the entire global community can then say, we're watching you, and these are the things that we're going to do should you break the treaty. And those were suggested to me, by the way, by our own Cheryl Spencer. That's been her contribution to Project Enduring Peace thus far. Have I answered the questions about how the two are related to each other at all, Cheryl?
Yes, thank you. I was hoping to hear you're not in competition. You're in collaboration. That was Laura gave a very smooth, very well-prepared talk at the March One WILPF call that Diane hosted the other day. And she obviously she has lawyers working for her. She obviously has very good graphics designers working for her. And so I'm hoping that, between you can come together with some results that
she
will move us forward.
Institute. She has this Oracle Institute behind her, so that she has an organization already. Yes. And that allows her to bring in a lot of people and attract a lot of people. Project Enduring Peace is not an organization per such. It is a project. So it doesn't need an institute. It doesn't need a place to be. It just needs to start gathering people, a global force behind the idea. But they can communicate, but we're working on how that's going to look. But we're definitely not in competition.
Who funds the Oracle Institute?
I don't actually know. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't know her source of funding.
I
No.
see 2 hands up.
No. Yeah, okay, so I think Eileen's first and then Robin.
Well, I think Robin's hand was up first this time.
Well, now,
Okay,
okay, go
so
ahead.
I'd just like to ask whether, Judith, whether both groups were you at the Commission on the Status of Women last week? Because that's a place to meet women who are activists and ready to go.
Yeah, neither Laura or I were, but Diane was on the, I believe, and Diane's a part of she and I are both keeping track of PEP and the Founding Mothers Movement. You want to make any comment about that, Diane?
No, because I was just, well, I talked to certain people that I was hoping would help both, I think, both organizations, or at least I know Laura George wanted certain things and I gave her a couple people. So, but I wasn't prepared to go out and give speeches or any in-depth things about it or sponsor anything. I was there mostly listening and talking to people. So yeah, that is a good group, the CSW, which you're going to speak on, Robin, later.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Eileen?
Yeah, I just was hoping you could offer some links so I can go back and look at the presentation, maybe the one the one you just showed, for example, Ellen, and also the one that was at your house. I'm sorry, you presented, Diane. I've missed the boat. I've been overwhelmed with a number of things. It hasn't stopped basically since I went to CSW. It's one thing after another. But I do want to try to keep up. And I did have a little trouble following you, Judith, because I haven't been keeping up.
Well, I recommend going to the two past Jane Addams meetings, because Judith presented at the first one and Laura presented.
I was at that, yeah.
And Laura presented this past week. So they're both on WILPF US Today that Ellen keeps up. Anyway, WILPF US Today, they're both, and then you, and there were emails with links to their websites or information about it. So,
Okay,
but
I'll look through some of them. I'm behind on those two.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, okay.
And can I, all right. So then I would like to just mention the Law Not War campaign. Okay, I've sent you emails about this. This is the campaign coming out of Unfold Zero and Abolition 2000, where they are, pushing for the use of the International Court of Justice. And I think I forwarded you this. They, show what has happened in the past with the International Court, where they have managed to bring to an end conflicts through the International Court. There's one, Chad versus Libya, for example. And so we have to, keep pressing that people believe in the court and take note of what they said. So we are one of their 90 organizations that have joined that campaign. We're a participating organization, which means we need to keep track and use our influence at the UN. The International Court of Justice is part of the whole UN system, I believe. And Gloria has joined us now and is asking where we are on the agenda. We are past where you would have talked, Gloria, but Diane will find a place to squeeze you in.
We're going to go back to you, Gloria, as soon as Judith asks a question or whatever. Go ahead, Judith, and then Gloria.
Yes, I looked into Law Not War in some detail, because if you're trying to get a treaty or trying to get an international agreement, that's what I'm concerned with. And Law Not War, of course, they're not trying to do that. They're trying to get more people to be willing to submit themselves to the International Court of Justice, because that's the problem with its effectiveness, is that people just won't submit to the court for to the adjudication by an outside body. So that is a problem I see with that. I encourage them, but it's a problem.
When you say a people, you actually mean a country.
I mean,
Don't
nation.
you?
States, states, yeah. It's all countries that they're being, okay, and the United States is not there, and that's why people, why we don't have too many presenting against us. Okay, so Gloria, go ahead, I guess.
I'm here, I'm gonna unmute here and make myself visible. Now, what you want is the last week of my activities that have to do with disarmament and the media. So I would say the biggest one, and I don't know if that was during last week, I guess it was that might have been the week before when Hideko, got interviewed. I haven't had anything other major. I think the more recent interview might have been another one set up by me at WAMU. I'm not sure. I think that was just reported that she had one there too. So that and going to the PBS station, which is quite resistant to anything about peace that's coming down from the main PBS headquarters. Films and things come out and they don't get carried here. I'll have to do an update on that in more detail. So I think that is, and one other thing, I leafleted. I gave out all of our leaflets at 2 events. One was the Uranium Film Festival. I did send out information about that. It's founded by a man in Brazil and a woman who travels with him. And it has been, you can look it up. It's called the Uranium Film Festival. His name is, Norbert something. I can't remember his last name.
I was there. I was there yesterday and today in Asheville.
Oh, okay. Who's saying that?
Ellen?
Pardon?
Who's saying? Oh, Ellen, you were there. So you know who these people are. So anyway, I did a lot of leafleting for WILPF at one of the film on 3 Mile Island there. And then we had a how do you pronounce it? Challah for Gaza event at the Unitarian Church last Sunday. And I could have either worked dishing out they didn't make challah, they made French toast. So it was French toast for Gaza, for Ramallah. So, but they wanted me to hand out WILPF materials because they had more people handing out than they needed. They were crowding in with each other. So I went around handing out things about Mecca to people at their tables with envelopes. So we knew they'd already donated if they were there, but I said, you can give this to a friend then, someone else who might donate. So that's my activities for the week.
So when you say you handed out Mecca?
Mecca, the one that is the World Kitchen Mecca, the group that gets in and gives aid to the people in Gaza.
Right, the World Kitchen, but you also handed out things about WILPF or not?
I handed out some things about WILPF, but especially there I didn't really concentrate so much on WILPF. I concentrated on getting those with the envelopes so they could, I said I was from WILPF and there were things on our table, but I didn't push that as much at the church. I pushed what we were actually doing was to raise help for those people. So that's what I did Sunday.
Thank you. Did Ellen want to say something about the Uranium Film Festival?
Ellen, yes.
Yeah, I would like to say the films are very intense, excellent. I asked if there was any way that I could get MP4s from them. I went out and bought a great big capacity thumb drive to see if I could download them, but they said they couldn't do that, but they were going to try to get a permission to make them available online for people, and I asked please to be put in the loop on that. I am recommending that one of the films be, and I sent an email about it actually, be part of the Congress, because the Fukushima disaster. It was an excellent film, and it definitely has to do with water, the ocean, and how it affects everybody around the world. Shows the patterns of it, and it was really well done. So that's my report.
You sent an email to?
I sent an email to or I am going to send an email. I
haven't
don't know
sent
who I should send an email to. Who should I?
Well, the disarm discussion.
How about the Congress Committee and me and,
Oh,
meaning
yeah.
me and Nancy for, since I'm on this committee.
Yeah, I'll send it to you and Nancy and the Disarm Committee, and then you all send it off to everybody that you can think of, that is involved with it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, they're all due I think they're all due tomorrow, right? Or something like that, according to the email that went, alert that went out or something.
What's
Anyway.
due, the proposals?
Yeah, all proposals are due by.
I'll get it out.
26th.
Thank you.
We're going to have a
26th.
resource room in which this could sit and be promoted.
But
Right, so
if
we
we're
have-
going to do this, we're going to have to get permission to show it. And, we're going to have to go to the,
Will that take time?
I don't know. So we need to make.
Okay, I'll make a note of it and work on it.
But we will talk more about the Congress in
Okay, I was just going to say
item 8. Yeah.
that it was interesting. I think, anyway, the Hideko, I think it was WAMU's, when Hideko spoke there. Afterwards, they had a couple of other speakers, and one was called Joan Rolfing, and I got her mixed up with Joan Roloffs,
Oh,
who did what is it, the $1 trillion whatever. But Joan Wolfling, let me put this correctly. I thought she was so good, and she talked about tactical versus strategic weapons. And so I think that if you all listen to Hideko, continue to listen a little bit more to the other people there too. They were really good.
Mm.
So that's so Gloria, I think that you're done with your report. Thank you.
yes, done.
Okay, so next Robin is on for AFRICOM and then the CSW.
Okay, for AFRICOM here in Burlington, we are having Africa Day again, but it's not on the official Africa Day for logistic reasons. It's on May 11th. We have the possibility of Mama Africa from the MOVE movement, which was the movement in Philadelphia that was bombed by the mayor. Do you remember that, like a decade ago? And she sometimes summers up here, and she might be here. So anyway, we are building awareness about Africa and the Pan-African Congress that is going to happen. We think, though we've lost our link with one of the people who is feeding us information on that, but is due to happen in October in Togo in Africa. In terms of the Commission on the Status of Women, there were other people who were there who are here, Eileen and Diane. And for me, the exciting part was sort of just walking down to where the people who put on the Commission on the Status of the Status of Women meet, and I met with a wonderful woman named Rosemary, and she brought out this book that I bought, and it tells about the history of the Commission on the Status of Women, and the fact that next year is the 30th anniversary. We all talk about anniversaries here. I know Alan talks about the anniversary of the Hague Conference. It's the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. And she said, our problem is we don't have enough people around who were actually there. And I said, I was there. Are any of others of you, were you there, Platform for Action? So it's just old folks like me who were there. And I said, and I made a film about it. So I sent that to her, Peace Train to Beijing, and she called back. She's very excited. So next year, this is why it's important for this committee. the goals on reading this booklet, it's equality, development, and peace. Actually, they leave out the peace part.
Oh,
They don't stress it enough. So that has to be something that we do maybe with International WILF, and we build up for next year at the next CSW at the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration. Because, and reading this, you see that so many things that happened after that, like the 1325, the women have to be brought into the peace table that was passed in the year 2000, and the Hague Appeal for Peace that came after the Beijing meeting. So I think it was the Beijing gathering was the largest gathering of women in history, and I think even since then it's been the largest. So it's really something we should pay attention to, and look at the fact that of the 12 points, peace is one of them. If you look at the points of like sustainable development or or the Millennium Declaration that came out, those are not talking about disarmament that much. So the Beijing, in the United Nations, the Beijing Declaration, I think, is the strongest one that references peace, and we should get ourselves together to do a workshop next year, or something like that, maybe with international, maybe inside the UN, as distinct from being in the church center across from the UN. That's what she informed me, that those are two different venues and two different requirements to make it happen. You know what I mean? To do it in the UN is a different thing. The only person we saw, Melissa Torres, she was at one of the conferences, one of the workshops inside the UN, and you could see it was a pretty big venue and very official, whereas the parallel meetings outside the UN in the church center across the street are more informal, but very intense and very, very fantastic to just be meeting all the women who care so much about women's issues and development from around the world. So I always find it quite a stimulating event, and I hope you all will come who may have never heard about it.
Amen. I'd like to tell you that, or remind you that Dorian was on the peace train with you, and I think she might want to get involved for this upcoming one. At least I would like to see her. She'll be off her big seat by then, and maybe have some breathing space to enjoy a little of New York at the same time. I appreciated some of the special gatherings of only Black women, and was pleasantly surprised to hear someone from, I just went blank. Sylvie's from Cameroon, a representative of Cameroon, talking about, I guess you might say, a financial program that's working very effectively, with a lot of accountability, offering would-be new businesses $50, see how they do after 3 months on that $50. If that works, offer $500 3 months later, and then $1,000 after the first year. It's been quite successful, and in in a country that has a lot of problems, basically. I was also involved, I had an opportunity to meet the delegates that were there. I was particularly entranced with this woman who came in kind of the last minute because there was someone who had to step out, who has a touching story about her own work, and she's a member of WILPF and deserved to be in New York because she's gotten at least 1,000 young women trained to do training on avoiding rape and what to do in situations like this. Her own daughter was killed in a rape murder situation. She's so dedicated. She was outstanding. And what else? The other thing, I just like being with all of the folks that are so like-minded and energetic. I have to admit, and the stories from the end, I didn't get into the UN this time because I was not a delegate, but the NGO stories were very powerful, as always. And I liked meeting the people in the office and getting what most people call my hard questions answered. They do a good job. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, Cheryl?
Yes, just to say that the UN Decade for Women was 1976 to 1985, and I went to the final conference of that decade in 1985 in Nairobi, where we had these two events. One's called the NGO Forum, which is what Eileen and Robin and Diane went to. It was pretty big in Nairobi, and it got even bigger as time has gone on. So you've got tens of thousands of people, I believe, women. And then you've got the UN, and we are accredited to the UN. And so the same way we got people into the UN for the TPNW and the NPT conferences, we should have delegates who are going to attend and be able to hold workshops. So I don't know, you said we had delegates that, they're out, somebody outside Disarm was organizing that. Is that what Shilpa and Jan Kordeman did? Were they
Yes.
inside the UN?
Yes, they have 4 members and 4 potential members, students who were more mature. They were older this time and had a lot more to offer as a result, because they had already been doing activism in many ways.
But they didn't do anything about disarmament or ending war. So
Diane was there at the vigil, the 2-hour rally kind of thing.
Yes,
Diane,
but I'm
you
talking
go.
about a workshop inside the UN. You have to get a meeting room inside the UN, and I think that's what.
No, you don't have to. That's what Robin was saying. What do you mean you have to get a meeting room inside?
Well, no, if you want to influence the diplomats, if you want to bring your story to the diplomats, then you have to organize in the meeting rooms, and then you have to be, and there's a process to do that we've observed for the TPNW. So there must be a process, similar process for the CSW.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Robin,
so what I think Robin was saying was we should make sure that happens next year. We talk to whoever it is in WILPF who organizes CSW and make sure that there is somebody, that there is something about disarmament dealt with. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah. If I could just bring up one point, which is a little bit off topic, but about the organization, European Descendants Against Racism, which Gloria is a part of, and a few others maybe are a part of. Just to say that George Friday is hoping to organize at our Congress a session to do trainings in anti-racism and being able to lead sessions in our own hometown on that subject. And only 3 people at our meeting yesterday were able. There were 4 people there. 3 of us said sure. But I think she's looking, and I would support looking for others. And I know many people, many women may say, and I would say, Well, I've been there. I've done that. I did my anti-racism workshop way back like 30 years ago. Well, the point is, time has changed. You have changed. Your awareness has changed. It really would be valuable to do, and this is sort of the request of the Advancing Human Rights group. So, email me, robinlloyd8@gmail, if you would be willing to be involved in that.
Are you saying being involved to take the training or to help with the training?
Take the training.
Yeah, I've gone through a couple of trainings already. I'm reading with a group of Blacks books, only Black writers books right now, and I'm pushing everybody in my church who's into reparations to support a system in Brockton, Mass, where one of our members lives. She's a Congolese woman. And their school has had a history, this is Brockton High School, of being a model. It's a 2,500 kids school, the largest school in Massachusetts, was a model that people came from all over the world, particularly Africa, to see how it was working. It had 70% people of color. A good many of them, not them, but others, didn't speak English. And it was a success, such a success that Biden chose it as one of the 5 cities to get grants to help people build businesses in this. It is now covered in, I believe it's been systemic racism. They passed Chapter 222 several years ago. The school has gone downhill. They fired, I should say, they let go of the teachers that made that whole system work. I really let everyone know. There are about 20 people in our social action meeting. And also the people who weren't there who are on reparations. I was talking, I'm off track. I know this. I'm saying I know a lot. I'm looking for more support, by God.
Well, talk to George. I think you would be very, as you say, very useful to show that things have changed from 30 years ago when you and I probably first took an anti-racism workshop, and that.
No, I took mine 4 years ago. I've made a pledge. I have been reading every single week something on Blacks, and usually I have been doing Black writers.
So you are advanced for most of us, but let George Friday know, and you could be like help her out to. For those
yeah, we could sure use the help up here, but I'm afraid to bring somebody who I find contentious to work with will get involved because she knows a couple of people up here.
I think this is really off disarm, so I'm going to stop that.
You're right. I am sorry. I got on my horse.
Cheryl to talk.
Okay. I just put in the chat, and I'm going to reiterate here, apropos of almost everything, including the last discussion. Bonnie Jenkins, she's not new, actually. She has been there for several years. The Undersecretary of State for Arms Control is a Black woman who founded Women of Color for Peace, Security, and a transformative approach to conflict. Now, I don't think any one person can represent the direction for the future, but I do urge everybody to please check her. It's in the chat, it's in the email. I urge you all to look her up, read her vita, and then go to the Women of Color for Peace, Security, and Transformation of Conflict and read about that. Okay, enough.
Thank you. Hey, Odile, hi.
I was in sessions with Bonnie Jenkins at the MPT conference last
good.
year, and
Well, let's hear about it.
but she, you know, I wouldn't call her, you know, a terribly dove person. I mean, she toes the government line, okay,
Right.
on disarmament. And I'm going to start eating my dinner now, and my friend has arrived at the front door. But you all should talk about the no to NATO and the Congress. Thank you.
I'm just going to go ahead and follow the agenda, and then it'll be recorded. So, and you'll get the minute. Okay, so I think we're done with that. And our next, and Nancy is not here, but Odile is here for her 2 items. So Odile, do you want to talk about MEPJAC? And you might as well do the nuclear weapon-free zone too. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I work on Sunday. I take care of a French woman who has Alzheimer. And I'm going to take her to Paris next month.
Wow.
That's where she wants to go. So I missed the last Middle East meeting, and Jan and I were in the CSW, and that's what we focused on. It was 10,000 women there at the UN, but it was very poorly organized. I thought 10,000 women could do a lot. And the sessions are all over the place and not in any order. They don't have any way to organize all the women. So it was very difficult to find out what workshop to attend and what the result was going to be. I know there was another week, so we don't attend the second week in WILPF, we just go to the first week. And local to global, we did meet some WILPF women from Africa. I'm sorry, I'm not giving a Middle East nuclear weapon-free zone, but I have been working on making a guide for that. We met women from Africa and I translated for them. So we're going to write some in news and we have to focus on it quickly because I think tomorrow is the absolute deadline. So anyway, that's, I don't have too much to say otherwise.
Odile, you were great at being the translator for the 3 women that spoke French that were from Africa. You did such a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheryl has her hand raised. Cheryl, I thought you were leaving, but do you have someone to say something?
I'm just listening as I eat my dinner, and I just want to make sure that you do deal with the fact that Congress is now virtual and what this deadline is. Thank you.
Yes, okay, yes, I know. Anyway, on the Middle East question, it's obvious that with Gaza, that they are going to continue massacring all the people. That's what they want. They want to clean out Gaza from any people and from any building so they can start all over again. And it's about real estate deal, taking the land, basically. They also dragging the oil from the sea, but they want the whole place, and they want it also the North Lebanon coast. So they are continuing to bomb the North Lebanon coast. And it's very important for us to continue focusing on what we've written in news about last time for the Middle East, which was about disarm. And all our guide, I presented all our guides, the guides that were in disarm, because not many of our members know that Cheryl has all those guides there in the Disarm Committee on the website. And so that was a news that I did last month, and that show where are all those guides. And hopefully the WILPF will use some of those guides. Anyway, that was my purpose, and also that we need to divest. We really need to divest from the war system. Anyway, that's it.
Okay, so Cheryl, you have your, go ahead. I
Yeah,
know
so
you're.
so as you know, we are redoing the Disarm website, and Diane and I have been spending a lot of time taking the old guides and making them available. So on the new website, there will be 6 guides, including the Middle East guide. Okay, so the ones that we consider still relevant on the new Disarm website whenever that gets up. Okay, so don't worry about the guides; they've not been lost. Thank you.
Okay. No, I
Okay.
don't worry about them, but I put them in my news so people would see that those guides exist, because they did. A lot of people that are not in Disarm don't know.
Good. Okay. Cheryl, I don't know when you wanted to talk about the Congress. Did you want to do it while you're still here before you leave, or
I want Eileen to talk about the Congress because she's on the program committee. I don't need to talk about it.
Oh, okay. You just want everyone to know about anyway, Nancy did speak about it at the Jane Addams meeting, and she covered it pretty well, I thought, Wednesday. But Eileen, go ahead.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about the Congress. If Nancy covered it, I think you might want to depend on what she said because she knows more of the ins and outs. I was approached today because they wanted to, it was wanted to get the notice out and I think it was the e-news. And using one of the pictures that was created by our program committee. That's basically all I know. It's rolling along. It's shaping up really nicely. More people are feeling comfortable with well, who is coming basically. But as I said, Nancy's the person, and if you can repeat what she said, that'd be good. The reason why my hand is up is because Martha Spies is on this call, and if you I also received an email about, hey, what's going on with the Peace Walk? Martha Spies knows more about it than I do. And we might want to ask her since it's not on the agenda.
It is on the agenda. It's next on the agenda. It's covered under No to NATO. It maybe should be, yeah, the Peace Walk is kind of put in there because it ends at the No to NATO events. So,
I don't see it. Well, for whatever reason.
yeah, it's on reports on Wolf Branches helping with the 650-mile long Peace Walk, Maine, and then Martha and Mass, Eileen. So it's next. Yeah. Okay. So no to NATO, I wanted to talk about that it is coming along. There was a meeting Friday. Friday we had it's like we're meeting monthly on it. And it's coming along. And I asked for David Swanson to make a short video on why we should not support NATO. So he came out today with a video, and it's not quite what I wanted. So anyway, but we're talking. So that they have it arranged, and also I hope that the WILF board meets around this and they stay at my house again, and like they did 2 years ago with the Poor People's Campaign event. They had the WILF in-person board meeting here, and so I hope that they meet again in July so they can also support this No to NATO event. But okay, so the Peace Walk ends on July 5th, or that's the date I've seen, and it ends in order to go to this. And so Martha, yes, Martha, you can talk about what's going on in Mass, and then Eileen, did you want to say, you have your hand raised. So Martha, if you want to speak about what's going on in Maine with the No NATO and Peace Walk, go ahead. Martha, you're unmuted, so.
I don't have anything to
say
to say over the past couple of weeks because I've been out of the discussion, but Eileen and I were communicating by email, and I've been engaged with the No to NATO and the march for like, I don't know, a couple months now. And it came up recently as it's from the main contingency from Veterans for Peace, who's leading it here, that we were starting to meet with Physicians for Social Responsibility and other groups like Moms Against Guns and climate people. And as events transpired, Veterans for Peace very clearly said that it's a march for peace, and it doesn't have anything to do with No to NATO. It doesn't have any messages to do with No to NATO.
No.
And they said it so convincingly, and so people were starting to volunteer to sign up to have people stay at their houses and have speakers lined up and everything else. And then they got hit with this brick from behind them saying, you know what, it's planned with No to NATO in mind. And quite a few of them, now that everything's happening before us about Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, Gaza, it just was such a mess because it people felt deceived about the actual DNA of what the march was about. So most of those groups, I think all of those groups have fallen out. And from what I understand now, the march might start in very southern Maine, and it's just kind of a mess. Eileen, do you have anything to add to that?
I haven't been on any of the discussions. My information is mainly from you.
Okay.
All I know is that Mass Peace Action handed the responsibilities for this walk going through Massachusetts over to Sue Mirsky, someone I vigil with and is from my hometown here. Well, it's not hometown, but where I'm living now. And she passed it on to me, and I was willing to even go to Maine and work up there. And I was even considering going through New Hampshire. That's a short stint. And then through Mass and maybe even through Connecticut to, you know, then everything happens in New York. I was willing to go, you know, that 100%, but not without a lot of people walking. It just doesn't make much sense, does it?
Yeah, no. And it's pretty short notice now for Maine people to start trying to line up people once all of the fallout happened. And now it's supposed to happen it was going to happen on what, April 26th, that it was going to start in Augusta.
Yep. Something like that.
That sounds right.
So that's completely dropped, and I don't know what time, maybe you know what time or what date it's going to start in southern Maine. Do you know, Diana?
Well, there's a schedule on the peacewalk2024.org. There was a schedule. I haven't looked at the website recently, but it had day to day where they were going to be day to day. And interesting thing, when they created the website, they had left out any mention of NATO, the NATO events in DC, but then the guy acted like it was accidental and he added it, but it's only a sentence. It was on the website. I haven't checked it. Like I said, I haven't checked it recently. So, and this, you know, so many people think NATO is so important and so good. So it's a real thing. So I'm disappointed that we can't be clear on the message as to why we don't want NATO. Cheryl, you have your hand raised.
Yes, just to go back, I'm sorry, to the Congress. To say that it was dealt with in your One WILPF call doesn't help. Many of the people on this call were not on that call on Wednesday, okay? So they don't appreciate that it's going by totally virtual and all the other details. That's why I put it on the agenda. So I'm sorry, you're muted, Diane.
Yeah, I didn't know what you wanted Cheryl to say about it. I did mention, okay, saying that it was on, but it is because it's recorded, they could go back. Odile wrote in the chat about how much it costs.
Yes,
And
and
according to Nancy, it was going to be $55 for the whole thing. If
yes,
you wanted to do it for $20 or $25 a day.
right. So the point is that we branches and everybody should be putting in to take part in it virtually. And so, read your e-alerts. And the other thing is this, I'm sorry to hear about this peace walk shenanigans. So hopefully we'll find out more about it. Because we said we would help, we would have branches help. So Martha, maybe you could find out some more things for us and send us an email about what's happening. All right, I'm really going now. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I want to make a correction. The information.
So because of you, people start speaking at the same time, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. It would be better. Okay.
Quick correction. The email that I got recently that I was trying to cipher out. Watch for the website for the Congress. That's what the communication I was dealing with today was about. The visuals that I was part of needed to be put in. I was getting confused there.
Okay.
Odile, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
I forgot what I had to say.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, just, yeah, that happens. So I think we covered that area. We were the no to NATO item, which was C, and Odile gave her report, and then arrange. Oh, okay. So it was on the agenda. WILPF Congress. It was next. It was coming up. Yeah. So anyway, I guess we covered that already. And then the next item is problems with radioactive waste, and Pam is not here. And then get institutions and individuals to divest from weapons companies. And Cheryl sent out her 3 documents. Anyone trying any tactic, she wrote on the agenda. So this is divestment from weapons companies. Well, anyway, okay. So then the next item is, I think we've already covered advocating for end to the war in Ukraine. And so then the next part is support for the committee, and Treasurer Balance is always here. I don't know if Ellen wants to say anything about that, or the website that they've been working on really hard. Ellen and Eileen and Cheryl. Ellen, do you want
I can report. I don't have anything to report on the treasurer's report. I'd like to ask Odile if she got her check.
Not yet.
Okay, we need to follow up.
Yes.
You follow up and I'll follow up.
What check you speaking about?
Reimbursement for your trip?
For the CSW?
Yeah.
No. For CSW?
Yeah.
You're
I
asking
thought
about
it was for the previous one.
I thought it was NPT.
Me too.
Oh, I got that for the NPT. It's
Good.
not the NPT, it's what is it called? It's not
TPNW? I don't know. It was
yeah, TPNW.
Yeah, okay. So you did get that check. All right.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
So you need to submit if you need to get reimbursed for your trip for the CSW, you need to submit.
Yeah, it's just a little bit.
Okay,
it's
well,
not
you
much.
need to send it to me and then I'll approve it.
No, it's
CSW?
no, it's Jan who was taking care of it, and I have done it already.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, the CSW is CSW. Yeah. Okay. Did you know anything about the website, Ellen? That was the main thing. Oh, Cheryl, Odile?
We have to work on the CSW next year. We need to organize it. It needs to be much more organized and much more fruitful. We cannot make 10,000 women come and not have anything being done. It's crazy. We really need to move this world forward to peace. And we can be that. We can be the organizer.
Okay, that's 10,000 women. Okay, Robin has maybe a response to that. And I guess Ellen didn't want to say anything about the website. Or
Well,
Eileen.
the website is, I'm going to be sending in the new version that we've been working on this week. I'm just double checking everything, a final double check, and I'll send it to the chairs and to Eileen, who are that's the crew that have been working on it. So
Right. Okay, Robin, response. She has her hand raised.
To Odil's comments about the CSW and next year, yes, absolutely. We have to get organized now. The meeting, the planning meeting, meets every month from now to the next one. You know, there's also to get engaged. You have to go to the website. I will try to go to the website. I think you weren't here earlier when I mentioned this book.
Oh no, I didn't get that.
Yeah, which we picked up because we went to the office in the basement of the church center, but it's online, some sort of version of it. And it's fascinating. And unfortunately, they don't focus enough on peace, in my opinion. And
yes, I agree. I agree.
in your opinion, and this last session, they choose different themes, and this year the theme was you know, I don't know what it was, financing women's organizations or something.
It was poverty and gender, basically.
Yeah. So I think next year, because it is the 30th anniversary of the Beijing event, that there will be a lot of focus more on peace, and we should be very involved, and international should be involved too. We should be allied with them. And okay, here's one thing. The office it's called the UNO office of WILPF in the church center on the 6th floor. They have never seen a copy of our Peace and Freedom. No, they should have at least 10 copies whenever Peace and Freedom comes out, so that they know what we're doing. You know,
good point. I'm surprised.
And I don't know who would be in charge of making sure of that.
Well, actually, I think some of those women should be in WILPF US. I mean, and be a little involved in WILPF US. They're living in the US, so why not participate a little bit? But they don't.
Yeah.
Well, just to be fair, there's at least 2 people in the office who are brand new. And one was there like 6 months. She was
Has anyone ever from that office that I haven't seen it, but
point well taken. You're right.
Okay, Judith, your hand is up.
Yeah, just a quick question. If we are going to get involved in making it the CSW more alive and more effective and actually accomplish something, what is the steps involved to participate in doing that? How do we do that? Who do we go to?
Well, I would suggest we start to take part in the monthly meetings of the CSWNY. In other words, a New York group that puts it together. This is a very, I mean, there's lots of different committees and meetings and so on. But if you go to the website, and I will do that, and I will send it, because I got this booklet. The woman we met with, and it was Nuri from from California, who went with me, and she's eager to be involved also. And we met, the woman we met was very open. She was not a sort of administrator at all. She was an activist, and she encouraged us. She liked my film. So she wants
to run your heart.
So
how are you're going to let us know at Disarm meetings how we can participate?
well, I'll send out I'll research in the next day or so and send out an email to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Like your background, Eileen.
I didn't do that.
Oh, really?
All I did was this and it happened. Oh my gosh.
How can you do that and I can't?
I don't know. I was a big fan of I Dream of Jeannie. Maybe it was my childhood influence.
Oh, that's amazing.
I
Gloria
agree.
knows about this, but I don't. That's amazing. Okay. Well, I think we've covered everything. So we have the next Disarm meeting set for the 14th of April. And and then the question is, any other business? Anybody wants to mention anything?
Eileen, make a heart and see if it makes hearts.
Judith has her hand up.
Okay.
I think.
Oh my gosh, it makes hearts too. I have a new computer that does things.
Oh my gosh, that's
You're
amazing.
just on a special Zoom iteration, a more sophisticated Zoom link.
Probably. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks
we're
to
done.
everybody, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Take
It's
care.
Bill, save the chat, save the chat, save the chat.
Thanks for keeping us in control, Diane. Appreciate it.
Did anyone want to take the minutes? I will offer that again before I start them.
I've got lots of notes, but I would rather get your draft and see if I have anything else. Sorry.
Joan. Thank you, Diane.
Realistically.
Okay. I'll work on it.
You're
Okay.
so good at it.
If Ellen sends me the recording, because I won't do it I need recordings to do minutes.
I'll send it right now to both you and Joan.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for doing it.
Everybody, no?
Take care. Good night.
Night.
Thank you, thank you.